that you might not have seen here before. And that, oddly enough, where I ran across grain baggers. Now, grain bagging is something that was actually invented and got started here in North America by Ag Bag. I asked some of the old Ag Bag guys when I was considering doing this, why did it never take off? I noticed that Ag Bag sold a number of baggers from time to time, you know, when they needed them, but it just wasn't anything that ever hung around and stayed. And they said, well, the reason is because it's easy to get it in, but it's tough to get it out. And he said, if you're looking at some machines and get it out easily, you might have a winning formula there. So I brought in my very first Richiger baggers back in 2006, anticipating the ethanol boom possibly coming. That's back when it looked like corn prices were getting ready to take off. And it became apparent to me that there was going to be a lot of corn start to be raised outside of the Midwest in your flex acres where there's cotton and what have you. So subsequently, that intuition proved out to be right. We started selling baggers down through the Delta, West Texas, down along the coast, anywhere where you normally find cotton, and guys were switching over to corn. So that's kind of where the genesis of it all came from. There's a lot of resistance to it when you start something like this new. I've started out a lot of different new companies before, and there was resistance to it in the beginning because the traditional way of storing grain in the Midwest is in bins. I mean, I've been around grain storage all my life, shoveled out a lot of bins, leveled a lot of bins, and I wanted to make sure myself that it actually worked before I started going out here and selling to people. Intellectually, you know it's going to work, but you know, you're always going to discover some bugaboo you didn't know anything about. So my idea was in that first year, let's try it out and make sure what you know to be true is actually true. So the first thing I ever bagged was soybeans. We get this question all the time, can you bag beans? Well, it's actually the first thing I ever did because of what we had to bag. Now I'll tell you something about a bagger. The very first thing I learned was how much it sped up the efficiency of our harvest. And it's gonna, if I keep talking here, I'm gonna start running through some of my slides. But one of the slides in there is about efficiency of harvest. All right, I ran a rotary combine. We're going back to 2006. I believe I had a 9650 with a 30-foot head on it and a 9510 with a 25-foot head on it. Our ADM, where we take beans, we bend some, and we take them into town, is only about, it's probably about 15 miles where I was cutting. And what I found out was, I put a bagger out, a 9-foot bagger at the time, stuck it in the field. And what I found out is that we were running 4 trucks back and forth. There wasn't much of a line. And during the course of the very first day, I bagged 8,000 bushels of beans. What that told me was that was 8,000 bushels of production out of those combines that I would have normally lost on that day. So just right there alone, our harvest efficiency, it proved out to me in the very first day using the bagger. Richiger grain baggers, just a little bit about them. This isn't a sales spiel on Richiger grain baggers. The main reason I'm here talking to you guys is to help familiarize you with grain bagging. Okay, how does it work? Why does it work? All that kind of stuff. The Richiger's been in business now for 50 plus years. They've been manufacturing grain baggers for the last 25. So this talk is a little bit about how does this benefit your farm? Why in the world, we used to get the question all the time, why in the world would I ever consider bagging grain? Well, that's a fair question. I asked it myself. And the reasons are very many. You got an unlimited amount of storage at your fingertips. I mean, you got a machine sitting there that's got the capacity to bag a bushel or 1,000,000 bushels. It's however many bags you want to put on it and how long you want to run it. These machines will bag at the rate of about 40,000 bushels an hour. So you can open up a grain cart, you can throw the traps to it, and I mean, you can flat bag some grain, your combine's never going to shut down. You can match your storage to your acreage needs. I imagine most of you guys in here rent some farm ground. If you are going to rent some more farm ground and you need more storage capacity, you've got it. If you're getting rid of some farm ground because rent's too high or something like that, you don't have to build storage for it. You've got all that you need to do it. And the average cost of that storage, now when I say average cost, that's plastic cost. Your average plastic ongoing running costs for this storage is 7 cents a bushel. It can be as low as 6, it might be as high as 10. It depends on what that raw materials cost in the time for these grain bags. But 7 cents is a good average figure to use. And that's a one-time charge, you know. I mean, it's 7 cents, not 7 cents a month, it's 7 cents. And then that grain will sit there and wait for you to come get it. The obvious thing is we maintain marketing control of our grain. Previous speaker here, Mr. Gold, was just talking about that. Yes, sir?
Bag used 1 year, so it's 7 cents this year.
7 cents this year. If you hold it 2 years, it's still 7 cents. You've been seven.
You gotta use another bag the next year. You can't reuse the bag.
No, you don't reuse the bags. But I'll talk about that here in just a minute. And they are recyclable, by the way. But you maintain control of your grain. All you guys know that if we lose control of our grain, we haul this stuff into town sooner or later through basis moves, storage charges, what have you. They're going to dictate when they really want you to turn loose this grain. They're called terminal elevators for a reason. You're going to terminate control, you're going to terminate ownership wherever you're dumping that stuff. And you can also, we kind of added this in late, but it's something that's really popped its head up in the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years. You can avoid unexpected basis risk. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure all of you all have seen your basis at harvest widen out sometimes when they're starting to get full, and they'll say, you know what, you want to dump beans here, it's gone to 80 cents. It's gone to 45 cents. It's gone to $1. Down at the river last year, by the river I mean down by Sykeston in the south, they were charging $1 just to come dump in the pit. So when you are presented with that by these elevators, you say, you know what, man, I don't think I want to play along. We're going to hold on to it for a while. We're talking a little bit earlier in the beginning of my presentation about logistics, how I found that on our place that the combine ran much faster and easier, and we didn't have to wait around for trucks. Well, that's true. Your combine will never shut down when you've got one of these baggers in this course breakdown. You can add harvest capacity, like I mentioned already, without adding any additional supporting equipment. I mean, if you think about it for a second, if you say you want to add some acres and you would need a bigger combine, or let's say you want to speed up harvest and you want to get a second combine. Well, normally if you don't have a bagger and you get an extra machine, you increase harvest capacity, and what do you got to do? You might add another grain cart. That grain cart might be able to keep up to 2 combines, but you're going to have to add trucks, and you're going to have to add drivers. So if you add that, that means you also, and you've done that in your own operation, now you got to find something for these guys to do the rest of the year. And if you don't do that, if you go out and you hire trucks, you're hiring them at the most expensive time of the year to get that done. So by having a bagger in your operation, sitting in a machine jet, you can drag that thing out, and your options are open. The grain baggers aren't a bagger versus bin type of equation. They're an addition to, or it helps open up your marketing options. It helps open up your grain handling options, all those kinds of things. Transportation savings, what I mean by that, you get some transportation savings out of owning a bagger. Well, if you want to bag at the field, which a lot of people do, some people don't want to, they want centralized control, and that's fine. But if you want to bag in the field, well, if you think about it for a second, well, if I'm farming where I'm from in western Audrain County, and my grain storage is in Cooper County, and I'm hauling it back over there, and I'm taking it to the river, I'm going 40 miles in one direction, the opposite direction I want to go. So I've got 80 miles worth of freight in that stuff, getting back to my outlet, getting it back to where I would normally keep it. So you don't have any doubled up freight by hauling around if you bag it in the field. And that speaks to one-time charges as well. One thing people point out to me is they say, well, grain bags are a one-time use, right? You can only use them one time. Yeah, that's right. It's going to cost you about 7 cents, right? Well, there's a lot of one-time uses in agriculture that people, if you're going to compare a bag as a one-time use thing, one-time use on diesel fuel, blowing out your stack, going the wrong way with your grain. One-time use on your electricity, drying your grain, and making sure it's staying in condition. If you're hauling it to town and you're paying storage fee, they're not going to give you back that nickel a month. There's one-time use on that too. So if you pay that 7 cents, you stick it in a bag, you've done that once, yeah, you're going to have to get rid of the bag, but like I pointed out earlier, it is recyclable. In our area, there's an outfit down in Stuttgart, Arkansas, that makes polypipe out of them if they're clean enough. They also make pallets, and I don't know if they make go cups, but they make a lot of different stuff out of these bags. There's no property tax on a bagger, even 179 it. If you want to write it off your taxes, this whole setup, retail, bagger and an extractor, is going to cost you in the high, $65,000 to $70,000 is about what you can expect to spend if you buy both a bagger and an extractor. But that's the cost of what an auger wagon is going to cost you. And you don't have, the auger wagon isn't going to give you the marketing flexibility in your operation that this thing's going to give you. So there's no property tax on this like you might find on a bin, and there's no ongoing costs associated with it, i.e. fans, electricity, or anything like that. Now, it also allows you to avoid shrinkage and maintain quality of your grain. And this is counterintuitive to what most people would think of when they start looking at a bagger. They think, well, I might have better quality grain if I have it in a bin. actually, if you put it in oxygen-free storage, which is what a bagger is, you're gonna maintain quality much better, and you're not gonna have any shrinkage. Why? Because we're not running any CFMs up through this grain to try to keep it in condition. We're not losing moisture, we're not drying it down, we're not putting any stress cracks in it, and therefore we're maintaining quality. Now, you guys probably can't see it from that far back in the room, but I'm from North Dakota State University here. We've got our standardized weights versus moisture. 56 pounds a bushel on corn, right? That's standardized test weight. Well, 56 pounds is figured at 15.5% moisture. So that's your standardized. Typically, you go to an elevator, you get in there over 15.5%. They're going to start docking you for that. Beans, I believe it's 13%, 60-pound test weight. That's what it's figured off of. Well, if you, I've got this little arrow up here. I don't know how this pointer works, so I'll go over here and point to it myself. But at 15.5% on corn. If I put 15.5% corn in the bin, I come over here and chart, let's just say I lose a half point. If I lose a half point on that grain, I've lost 1.67% of the volume of that grain. And it's reasonable to assume you're going to lose a half point if you stick in a bin around an air thread, right? Well, that's a real cost. So you don't have that when you put it in a bag. That's another place. That'll make up for the grain bag cost alone. Just saving on shrinkage. So we talked a little bit why you'd want to have a bagger around. Now, having a bagger is just like anything else. It's one of the most simple, forgiving forms of storage I've ever used in my life. Most people think it's complicated. It's not. This is very simple stuff. But it's like anything else. I guess the little presentation I'm putting on here, or bagging, or even setting a plow, you've got to spend a little bit of time getting ready for doing what you're going to do. You're just going to go out there and slam bang, put a bag in the field, you probably get it right by all right, but if you don't, and you don't do a few things, you could have a few little problems. And it's not hard to prepare, it's not hard to get ready to go bag grain. Number one, you want to pick the right location. Make sure you're not going to be bagging where you know there's going to be standing water. You want a reasonably well-drained site. And by well-drained, that doesn't mean put it on a hillside, because these things will act, put it on a hillside, they'll collect water like a dam, all right? So you don't want to put it across a hillside, you don't want to put it through a gully or anything like that. But you do want to put it in a reasonably well-drained area. You want to make sure that you don't have any stobs. If you're out bagging in a soybean field, go out there with a disc or something, get rid of all those little soybean stobs, because I guarantee you, if you bag on top of that, that will poke holes in the bottom of the bag. So get rid of that stuff. That's real easy to do. Go disc it. Well, now the ground's loose. Now what I do? We'll take that grain cart over there, fill it up with grain, run it up and down that track, back it down. It's as simple as that. It doesn't take very long to do. We suggest spreading ammonium nitrate, if you like, ahead of where you're going to place the bag. If I was going to put the bag right down this alley here, I'd want to get out there with one of the little push carts with some bagged ammonium nitrate, spread it out in front of it. Why do I want to do that? Well, when ammonium nitrate activates with just groundwater or a little bit of moisture in the soil, it'll turn into ammonia. The reason we do that is it does help deter pests or little voles or mice that later may want to come in underneath that bag. It's just real simple, it's real easy, it's not harmful to the environment. I'm not saying you need to go put down ammonium nitrate and make the ground look light. All right, just put enough down where you can kind of see it, and that's typically good enough. And it's recommended that you place your bags north and south. The reason for that is you got your sun coming up in the east, setting in the west. You're getting sun on both sides of that bag, so the heating effect stays even on the bag as it goes. If you're keeping it a short period of time, it's not all that important, but if you're doing long-term storage, it's recommended. While you're bagging, after you're bagging, make sure that you clean up your site around where you've been bagging. If you spilled some corn, clean it up. There's a reason why you want to do that. And the reason is, if you want to attract animals, if you're worried about animals, you want to track them, well, putting out a sign won't do any good, because they can't read. But you put corn out there, you bring them in. So just clean it up. That's all you got to do. I'm not talking about sweep ground clean, just don't leave piles around. If you do that, that's a great big help. If you are planning on keeping it there for a while, you might want to consider putting down a herbicide or something like that to control any weeds that might come up. I suggest you check your bags once a week. Don't have to, but I suggest you do. The reason is, if there's anything bothering it, just go by and look. And how hard is it? Typically, when you're out driving around your bags, you're literally driving around your bag. You're not climbing up and down a ladder. get in your truck. You know, end of the day, you want to drink beer. It's very relaxing. It's like going checking cows. Just go out and drive around those bags, look and see what's going on, and go home. That's what I do. If a hole develops, we've got repair tape. It's very sticky stuff. It's not. This stuff is not. What am I trying to say? Duct tape. This stuff is bag repair tape. If I was to put it on the back of my hand, rip it away, take the skin with it. So it's very sticky stuff. Does a very good job of sealing the bag. Let's see here. Bags, types of grain and time. Well, bags are designed with a UV inhibitor to be able to store grain in them up to 24 months. All right? So that's 2 years. I mean, surely, we use bags. We always recommend bags as a last in, first out type of an operation. So you're typically going to be using your other storage first. If you need extra storage, last stuff you use, first stuff you're going to move to the elevator. Now, the only exception to that is a lot of folks have started as grain movement has become more and more constipated over the last 24 months. We're seeing a lot of people use these grain baggers the very first thing before they ever go to the field. Taking dry grain out of the bins, bagging it when they're not doing anything else, when they normally be out mowing road ditches. Bins are empty for a wet crop, and they're ready to go. What about, you can put any kind of crop in it? Everything from corn to canola. Doesn't really make any difference with bagged rice as well. So it'll handle any kind of grain. Standardized moisture levels that you're normally used to working with apply if we're talking about long-term storage, but you are able, with management, to do higher moisture levels if that's what you want to do, but it is directly tied to the ambient air temperature outside. The reason for that is, and I'll go into this in a minute why that is, but the more moisture you've got in that bag, you've got grain in there, it's got fermentable sugars. There's 2 types of bacteria in that bag, which I'll go over later, but you could get it to ensile if you've got enough heat units to kick these guys off and you've got too high moisture. Now, that's not the end of the world either. It's not going to catch fire on you. It ain't going to rot. It's not going to go away. That is about the worst thing that can happen to you is it would ensile. So by higher moisture versus time, what I'm talking about is we've had guys put 25% moisture corn in these bags in October. The reason they were doing that is they were holding it for the dryer. First time I saw that done where it was practical was back in 2009. We had a really wet corn year. We had some producers around us that had to get out of the field. Stock quality wasn't all that good, so they went out and started shelling. 25% they were sticking it in there. The idea was to get it out of the bag by March, have it through the dryer. And they got along doing that just fine. No problems at all. But the reason was why? Well, the temperature was lower, ambient temperature was lower when they were dealing with higher moisture, so you can do that. Now, grain storage, this grain storage is like any other kind of grain storage. If something's going to happen to you, if it's going to go south on you, it don't happen like that. I haven't had a bin fire in my life, but I've had grain heat in a bin, and I didn't discover it. Every time it happened to me, it wasn't because I was paying attention. As I went and flipped the fans on, all of a sudden steam started coming out the top. Heck, what we got here? That's how we discovered we had a problem. Well, in a bag, what I should have done is I should have been monitoring that a little bit closer. There's no reason why you can't monitor things very easily in a bag. That's a picture of me. I've got a bunch of people we're training there, and I'm showing them the right way to go about probing a bag. You can take a probe, you take a little repair tape, put it over it, cover a blow in it, shove a probe down in there, test it, look at the grain and the whole length and the whole profile of the bag, test it for moisture. It's going to be the same moisture you stuck it in there at, and move on. The point I'm trying to make here is that anywhere along the length of that bag, I can tell you what's going on. I can't do that with a bin probe, but I can with this. If I've got an area of the bag where we've had a little bit of wetter crop for one reason or another, that can be segregated and monitored. You can draw a line on it. If you've got split ownership, all of a sudden I'm cutting for landowner A, and I switch to landowner B, I can take a line and I can put it across that bag. Bang, that's where it is, right there, and you can just keep on trucking. So, kind of run over preparing sites, why we want to bag grain. So, why does this work? Why doesn't it catch on fire? Well, the reason is there's no moisture, there's no oxygen in there. Well, there's oxygen when you put it in. If I put a bag on, I start dumping grain in there, you're gonna have oxygen around the seeds, right? So you're not in an oxygen-free environment. So how do we get it oxygen-free? Well, the way is because once I seal that off, if we shut this room right now, and I kept talking long enough, and you guys just breathe air, sooner or later in this room, all there'd be is carbon dioxide. I'd keel over, my head would hit the floor, you guys pass out, and that'd be the end of it. And that's what happens with your aerobic bacteria that are inside the bag. Those guys will breathe up all the available oxygen once that bag's sealed off. And they're expelling carbon dioxide while they're doing that. Now, at that point, we've got an oxygen-free environment. And by having an oxygen-free environment, one of the coolest things about this is in soybeans, if I bag soybeans in there, you know how soybeans smell when you cut them versus when they've been in bin storage a little bit and they get a little dusty, musty smell to them when you haul them out. You seal this stuff off and you haul beans out of there, they're going to smell just like the day you cut them. This grain's basically going to sleep. It also will control any kind of mold that may be, you know, you normally get mold or some sort of bin mold in your aerated storage. Insects, none of that stuff here, no oxygen. Heck, I was putting wheat in bags here this summer, and we had all kinds of stink bugs and everything else that was crawling around this grain. And when I went to open it up, those guys were all dead. So there's no decrease in grade due to shrink or oxygen degradation. I think I'm starting to run a little long, aren't I? That's basically the end of my presentation. Everybody, if you guys got any questions, I'm more than happy to take them the time we got left.
So what about getting the grain out of the bag?
Well, right there is a video. We've got an unloader, and the way the unloader works is you hook it onto the bag, it propels itself back through the bag, and it will unload a bag at a rate of about 14,000 bushels an hour is what they say. But in layman's terms, if you got 60-pound test weight corn, there'll be a deal in there that's showing it on some of the corn I was unloading on my farm. 60-pound test weight corn, I was loading those semis, and I was putting 1,100 bushels on them, which ain't legal, but I was putting 1,100 bushels on them in about 5.5 minutes. And it's pointed out to me every time we run that on Facebook, you're not legal. Yeah.
Don't you want to put your bags on semi-close to the road because of weather? It's wet, I mean, get the semis in and out of the field.
That's very helpful to do that. Sometimes it's not possible. You do kind of want to, if you don't have them close to the road, try to get them picked up, you know, when it's hard out.
Also,
When
get
it's,
you loaded the grain cart, and then cart it to the.
and that's exactly what we do. I'm getting ready to do some wheat like that too if the wheat market ever comes up. Yeah, I don't know if it's running that unloader yet or not, but that's basically how you get it out of the bag, man. You can use a vac, and I've used a vac on a bag before, and I'm not a big fan. They're slow and they're very labor intensive. A vac was designed to put in a bin, designed to put in a big great pile and let it work. That's unloader work, and that's there on my place, and that's that corn. That corn had been in those bags there, about 8 months.
Is it going the tractor in neutral?
Tractor's in neutral. In both the bagging operation and in the tractor operation, the tractor is nothing more than a power unit. That's it.
How'd you get along with the mud this year?
Excuse me?
You have mud? How'd you get along with mud?
With muddy conditions? Well, on these newer baggers, we've got oversized flotation tires on them. Got along reasonably well. Having said that, bagging in mud isn't an ideal thing to do.
Bags?
Excuse me?
Did you carry bags, loading them in the mud?
You shouldn't. If you're running it, if I can run it, there's some people that can't, but I can run it without tearing it. It's really managing the 4.5 pitch of your bagger as you're running it. But you remember that guy I told you about that bagged all that grain back in 2009 when we had moisture issues? He was bagging mud. He was so muddy he got the tractor was getting stuck. I thought we were going to have a full-fledged disaster on our hands there, and it worked out just fine. And I'm not advocating doing it. I'm just saying I've seen it.
When you unload that bag, or when you're unloading the bag with your bagging machine, it's auger, it's not like a vacuum.
It's an auger.
It's an auger.
Basically, you got a set of collection augers that are down in the bag. You lower the machine in it. the bag is coming up at the bottom at a right angle with the tires, and you're getting all your pull off the bag on the top. So what's propelling it as you're rolling this up is it's pulling off the bottom of the bag, you want the bottom loose. And the reason is, I'll set that unloader about 6 inches off the ground or so, so it's missing that grain. But as this bottom's coming up, it's taking that grain and sliding back down to those augers.
When you unload that bag, it all comes out.
It all comes out. It all comes out except for, you're gonna have about 25 bushels left at the end.
Down at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
And me, I mean, they've got a little chute, you can shovel it in there, but I detest shoveling. So we kick it in the loader and kick it in the truck.
What's the, when you have a huge bag, end up in a roll then?
It ends up in a roll, yep. Now, we've got an automatic uncoupler, you reverse your roller, the unroller uncouples, and then it spools off like toilet paper would. You just drive forward, and it's kind of neat. What you're gonna wind up is, you had this great big old long inflated bag, and when you drive away, it's just on the ground, flat. And then we've got a bag unroller you hook up, or roller you hook up to it, winds it back up, puts twine on it, makes a package about yay big, about yay big.
How heavy is that?
That'd be what the bag weighed. On a 300-foot bag, it'd be about 800 pounds.
Where do you get your bags?
We sell them. There's a number of different vendors for bags, but we supply bags as well. Keep a pretty good stock of them, so.
Are there different thicknesses on those bags?
There is.
There is.
There are different shapes.
You would wanna buy the heavier.
You wanna buy the heavier bag. Just, you know, you can get by with it in a bag, but for the cost of the commodity that you've got in there, I mean, for the price of what you're storing, I don't know what it's skip on it. So, it's not that much more money.